I watched the Santa Clauses season 2, and I gotta say, I think I like season 2 episodes a bit more than season 1, partially because I think better character development, if you will, because the one thing is, there's a undercurrent here, it's not really addressed, but that directly calls back to the Santa Claus 3's escape clause, where Santa was basically worried about being a father again because he knew he wasn't the best father to Charlie the first time. So in some ways, this season does kind of bring those fears back. Not quite, but he's working through being a father to Cal, and in some ways also his insecurities in the world are impacting how he is being it. It's not really addressed forefront, and I really wish it was. But the fact that you could see it underneath the writing, like somebody in the writing room had that in the back of their head, and you could tell it just made it through. But it wasn't the focus of the season, and that probably hurt it. Also, I feel like they are doing too much of pairing the children with the parents, but strictly along gender lines, really, for the stories. It's Cal and Scott / Santa. It's Carol / Mrs. Claus and Sandra. Like, they did that, and there was some good stuff there, but like, it would be nice to see, the different bonding. How is the Santa's and Sandra's family relationship, and what about Cal and Carol's? Like, I want to see that stuff, and they really didn't address it. They had a little bit going on with Sandra and Santa / Scott, but they really didn't, what's the word I'm looking for, delve into it. They just really, Sandra is really a little bit from Muslim, and then her developing magical powers, and basically all the insecurities that came with that for her. Like, okay, but and also a little bit with Cal and Sandra, like, okay, their relationships, yes, but I feel like they could have done more with mixing, matching relationships and seeing where the character development could have gone from there. The foundations are there, but they just didn't execute. What they did execute, I saw, was good. Father-son relationship, mother and daughter relationship, sibling relationship, husband-wife relationship. Those all seem to have been pretty well developed in regards to family relations. Even student-mentor relationship was explored a bit. Assistant and past. Like, those relationships were explored, but some of the other familial relationships just were lacking in being explored. And some, of course, just did a much better job than others. And should we address the antagonist of the season, Maximus Antis, or the Mad Santa, which I gotta say was a clever decision, I would say. How do you bring in an antagonist who is, more threatening than previous antagonists in the franchise and in season 1, but also has some motivation, and you can actually have a happy ending for. Because it turns out he does have a happy ending. He basically realizes he likes singing and performing to an audience, so they gave him that, and he's happy. And also him realizing him and I forget the gnome's name, but like, they bring out the worst of each other, and so they can't be together, which is just hilarious. But it also makes sense. Like, sometimes, like, two people, they may be friends, but they bring out the worst of each other, so they really shouldn't be hanging out together. But I also really liked, and this was part of Betty, so the head elf storyline. Not too much of her, because she was only recurring this season, but her and the other gnome, which definitely don't like each other, but that the gnomes, at least this one, did have some jealousy of Betty and the other elves, because the gnomes could only make practical stuff, they couldn't make toys. And I thought that was interesting. I really wish they explored that a bit more. Like, is it just this gnome, or do all gnomes have that? Yes, they get the gnomes to side with the elves against Maximus Antis at the end of the season, but I really wish that more was explored regarding the elf-gnome dynamics. Like, why were they so antagonistic? Yes, we got the hint that there might have been some jealousy regarding the fact that the elves are better toy makers, but I feel like there's something else going on. I really wish they could have explored that. Though that might have been getting a little too deep for what this franchise is intended. Just some fun Christmas romps, really, is what it is intended to be. Let's be real. But I really wish they had the groundwork for some really interesting group dynamics and how different groups enact like that. That could have been really interesting, but they just failed to deliver, if you will. Fail to deliver. I see what I did there. Like I said, there's a lot of what they did was good, but also they've left so many potential avenues that I really wish they explored this season. So in some ways, the biggest drag on this season, in my opinion, is the fact that there is so much hidden potential. Some of it quite obvious, like the dynamic between the gnomes and elves and their social dynamics and all that. Like, what's going on there? I want you to learn more about that stuff. But they really didn't address beyond one gnome is jealous of how elves can make toys and she can only make practical stuff. Like, okay, that's good, but go farther. Take it to the next level. But they didn't. And actually, that's probably a big thing with the Santa Claus franchise ever. There's always some great hidden threads there, but because they're not trying to do anything deep or profound, they tend to ignore it. Which is understandable. This is just a fun, family-friendly Christmas series franchise. It's not intended to be a deep exploration of things like Christmas and all that, but kind of wish they were going to more deeply exploring Christmas themes and just maybe some other themes using Christmas as kind of a the Christmas world, if you will, as an analogy in some form. Like, there's so much potential. Like, literally, I'm still hooked up on how they could have done more exploring the dynamic between the elves and gnomes. But man, we could get some equivalent of explaining different societal classes and all that stuff. Even loosely touch on race. It wouldn't be the perfect analogy, but in some ways it would be interesting to explore those themes in a way that, it's like an alien metaphor that you often see in sci-fi, and I think that would have been neat. But they didn't do it, and I do understand why, but I kind of wish they did. In fact, no, I don't kind of, I do wish they did. There's a few other things too I can address, but honestly, there is not too much more I want to say because I think I covered most of it. I could talk about each individual stuff going on, but they do actually reveal what happened to Curtis. So if you don't know, he was the number 2 elf in the Santa Claus 2, and then the head elf in Santa Claus 3: The Escape Clause. Well, he went on Cripple Crab, which is basically the one time in an elf's life they get a year to explore the real world. That reminds me of the concept of Rumspringa, which I know that some Amish sects do practice, and I have a feeling that is actually where they got that inspiration from. We know, like, both him and Bernard, when they went on their own respective ones, they didn't come back. Granted, Bernard had been head elf for a long time, so makes sense, he deserved a retirement. And at the end of the series, like, Betty was sent off earlier in the series for hers, but at the end, she came back to help defeat Magnus Antis. But anyhow, her and Noah are sent on it together at the end because basically Santa picked up that she was missing something, and that was no. Makes sense. They're a pair. They do need to go together. So it does make me want, though. They're laying the groundwork that in case they do a season 3 and they can't get those actors back, they can have new child actors slip in because they use child actors for the elves because they wanted the elves to look like children. But yeah, so they're laying the groundwork that I can so tell. There's other things I could address about it. I could break down each individual episode, but I really don't think that's warranted because really this series is intended to be watched as a whole. You can't really just watch one episode and call it a day. It's not episodic at all. 2 more things I want to just address about Cal. About Scott as Santa. Not only does he basically a healthy relationship with his son Cal at the end of the film, he also solves a problem for his son who just wants to, in a way, be a regular child. So, one way of doing it. And also offer to have him go off to college. And before Cal decides if he wants to become the next Santa or not, rather than pushing it on him. So Scott is definitely has learned that gotta let him find himself before he makes that decision, which is a good thing. And also most of the other characters, the first time they hear Magnus Antis' real name, not Mad Santa, but Magnus Antis, they can never say it right the first time. He did. Santa Scott did say that. Interesting. Now, granted, he did do some fun stuff later on, but the first time he did say it correctly. And I think that might have been intentionally showing that he is Santa's. He knows this stuff. Just something to take note of. But that's all I have for you in this video. I would love to hear your thoughts on the Santa Claus Season 2. The comment section is down below, leave your thoughts there. And once again, thank you for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to like it if you haven't done so already. And subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on all my upcoming content. And of course, have a day, a good night, wherever you are. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas! Thank you for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like, as well as subscribe to my channel and ring that bell to stay up to date on my latest content. Also, be sure to check out the link tree in the description, as well as any other links I have down there.